Hello to everyone and welcome to today's Catalyst Center virtual event. My name is Tanner Swift and I'll be your host for today's session. I'm excited to introduce a couple wonderful speakers for you today, but before I hand the mic over to our presenters, we do have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. Today's virtual event will be recorded and made available on demand after the live session, and the playback will be available on YouTube for rewatch as well. We will provide you with some further details on that at the end of today's event. Also, we'd love to hear from you during today's presentation. During the session, if you have any questions for our presenters, you can submit them via the audience Q&A section on Slido, where we will answer your questions live or during the Q&A portion of today's event. You'll see some QR codes sprinkled throughout today's session where you can participate, so be on the lookout for those. There will also be a couple poll questions for you to participate in via Slido, as well as a survey near the end of today's session for you to answer. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Chris Pohlad-Thomas, who will later be joined by Bruce McMurdo, who is going to share some details with you today about Catalyst Center and what is new in Catalyst Center 2.3.7.9. Chris, right over to you.
All right, thank you very much. So I think we see some of the information here that's being shared with you. And so what we're going to talk about is the updates to Catalyst Center 2379. And if some of you have joined us for the conversations about 2377, we'll try and make some distinctions between what was updated in 2379 along the way. So let's just kind of jump in here. As you saw here, this my name is Chris Pohlad-Thomas. My cohort in crime here is Bruce McMurdo. Bruce is going to guide us through some demo of some of these new features that are available within the new release, the 2379 release. So his part in this presentation is going to happen later in the show. So when we get to him, he'll happily walk you through all that. So, all right, so we have some questions and we have Slido available. You see the QR code right there. You can click on to submit your questions via Slido. I know we've had some that have already come in. So keep sending them in. If we don't get a chance to get to them during this presentation, we'll do our best to answer them in the post-webinar follow-up. So, all right, so what are we going to talk about today? So we are going to talk about, as you may or may not have surmised, what is new in the 2379 version of Catalyst Center, or as we all still sometimes affectionately forget and call it DNA Center. So we're going to dive into some of the new enhanced visibility and control features that'll let you preview device configurations before you deploy. We're also going to talk a little bit more about how it supports the generic MIB2, allowing you to manage other networks, or excuse me, other devices. So we have a poll. I'm going to pass it to, I think Tanner's going to put the poll up there for everybody to start responding to. So the question is, what version of Catalyst Center are you currently running? We just kind of want to get an idea of where everybody is at this point. You know, the recommended release right now is 2379. You may not be there yet. So you may have been waiting for this webinar to understand what has changed so you know what to expect when you get there. So we ask that you fill that poll out. All right, so here's our agenda for today. We have this broken out into the different personas, NetOps, AIOps, SecOps, and DevOps. So we're going to talk about the new features and enhancements as broken out by each of these different personas. So we'll go one by one, talk about the things that are in there, and that will be kind of the structure of the way this is presented to you. All right, so again, this is kind of how we have it broken out, the key new features. So AIOps, you see, we're working to improve performance, event analytics, preview dashboard, third-party devices, third-party device support for wired assurance. NetOps, we're working to enhance efficiency. So again, we're talking about the MIB2 support for third-party devices to give you visibility into those, even if they're not Cisco products on your network, give you more visibility and control. We're also talking about Catalyst 9800 Day Zero onboarding template support, AVC and QoS auto enablement. And then for SecOps, obviously that's security is a big piece. We're going to talk about LAN automation enhancements, SD Access UI 2.0, the compatibility check. And then finally, we're going to talk some about DevOps and some of the new and enhanced APIs. So these are the actual updates for those as it relates to 2379. So for the AI ops, we're talking about Wi-Fi 7 support. We have insights through the client health dashboard. We provide under the NetOps, we provide efficiency improvements, which are going to include things like editable wireless configurations, wireless automation for CNS licenses, and updates to the license manager. In the SecOps, we've added ISSU support for the 9400 Edge and enhanced APIs. And lastly, under DevOps, we've expanded with Cisco First APIs and new Ansible workflows. I'd say platform-wide, we've added improved RCA data, remote support authorization, and mixed HA cluster support. And I apologize, that was that was this slide that I was discussing. So these are the updates as it relates to each of those 4 personas for the 2379 update. All right, so let's talk about platform scale. So this kind of lays out some of the updates to the platform scale for the different devices. So one thing to note, there's no scale difference between the DN2 and DN3 appliances, but you can look at the numbers, the differences between the medium to the 3-node XL cluster. You can see how those have changed. And I know the numbers are a little small, but we wanted to make sure we put this in there. All right, so with Catalyst Center 2379, we also now support mixed 3-node high availability clusters. And this allows a combination of 2nd and 3rd generation appliances. This will give you the flexibility to plan phased hardware upgrades, so you're not upgrading your whole cluster at the same time. And that was one of our goals. We also want to note that the 1st generation appliances are no longer supported, though. So to ensure the consistency, all of these nodes in the cluster have to be the same machine profile. And this will help us and help you to update, to enhance your system resilience, and also to maintain our architectural compatibility. And we have some links we can share about the HA guide, with regards to these HA clusters. So here's the support matrix. You can see the different machine profiles that are listed there, and what their aliases are, and the part numbers that are associated with it. And we also have a column there that lists the number of cores for that. All right, so let's jump into the different personas. So the first one that we're going to start off with is NetOps. And if you remember from the previous slide, this is all the personas related to the network operation features. All right, so we discussed this a little bit in 2377, but it bears repeating that you're not necessarily going to have 100% Cisco in your environment. So we want to make sure that you still have visibility into that, even if it's not a Cisco device. We'd love for it all to be Cisco devices, but we understand that's not always feasible. So we're going to give you third-party device MIB2 support. So I just want to mention that third-party devices are defined, we define those as non-Cisco devices that support MIB2, and those can be added into Catalyst Center. We don't offer additional support for those. You'll have to contact the vendor for that, but you will have visibility of those in the Catalyst Center. And you can see on the slide here some of the more details related to that. But we wanted to ensure that you at least had visibility. And I realize the screenshots are a little small, but you can still see the highlighted options to see where that access and where that support is available. All right, so visibility and control. So let's talk about taking control of your network configurations. So this is one of our newly enhanced features, configuration, visibility, and control. So some of the benefits that you're going to have in this are preview configuration. So again, some of this may be a rehash from what we've discussed in previous version releases, but it's important enough, I think, that we make sure we talk about it again, especially if you didn't attend a previous What's New in webinar for one of our previous versions. But for example, with the preview configuration, we want you to see what is going to change before you hit deploy. So you get to see on the left side, you get to see what it looked like before and what it's going to look like once you hit deploy. So you won't be surprised. You'll know exactly how the configuration is going to change. And like I said, you'll see the actual CLI and netconf that will be used before it actually goes into effect. The whole measure twice, cut once kind of phenomenon. So the other thing is view changes. So we want you to see the commands, but we also want you to understand what the impact of these is going to be. So Catalyst Center will let you view the configuration details and highlight what's being added, modified, or removed. And this is available across most of the Catalyst Center workflows, and that includes provisioning all the way to ICAP. So, and then if you have integration with an ITSM like ServiceNow, you can actually submit these changes for approval. So you can submit them, but they will not automatically go through unless they are approved by a dedicated approver. And then the last, and kind of top it all off, you get to see the status of where your configuration stands, and you'll be able to see that right from within the task menu. All right, so day 0 onboarding template support. So again, this is probably a rehash. I think this came in, prior to 2379, but this allows you to allows day 0 templates to be applied to the 9800 devices during onboarding. So this wasn't available previously because of potential configuration conflicts, and so a couple of safeguards are in place to make sure that this is integrated seamlessly and that you don't override intended configurations. One of which is a real-time conflict warning, and that is displayed during the template creation, especially for the 9800 devices. And what this does is this will highlight, any issues that may arise before deployment. The other are intent warnings, and these are generated during the PNP or plug and play claims process when applying the template. And this is there just to make sure that there are no unintended configuration changes that could conflict with your network intent. So we have both of these warnings in place just to kind of make sure that you have a smooth and conflict-free deployment when you're deploying these 9800 devices on day 0. And you have the flexibility to address the conflicts or go on ahead with your deployment. And you can override the warnings, if you feel like that's necessary or appropriate. All right, so AVC and QoS auto enablement. So we've worked to simplify the setup for application visibility and QoS on the wired devices. When you're onboarding them through plug and play or assigning them to a site, the features will actually automatically activate if they're enabled for those sites. Before, the configuration had several steps, and we worked to streamline it within the site assignment process for Cat9Ks. So this should enhance your experience and make enabling the application data and policies more efficient. All right, so netconf during day 0 PNP. So enabling netconf during the Greenfield plug and play process, is now simplified. Will simplify your onboarding and also make sure that your telemetry collection is better. During the claiming through PNP, netconf and AAA configurations will automatically be applied as part of day 0. They can be reviewed in the preview configuration section on the summary page, which is at the end of the PNP claim workflow. And this should improve your overall efficiency and data collection of your network infrastructure. This netconf day 0 support is available for the switching platform. All right, so edit wireless device configuration. So this is a new feature within 2379. And so this provides a more flexible and efficient way to manage your wireless device configurations. You have the ability as an admin to see a summary of your wireless settings and make incremental edits directly on the devices without the need to create a new profile. It supports a wide range of profiles from SSID and RF to Flex, RRM, and multicast. And it's on Catalyst 9800 series controllers that are running iOS XE 17.12 or later. This enhancement will also streamline your day-to-day operations and preserve the intent-based automation for the previously onboarded controller. One thing I want to note is if you, I'll just jump back a slide for a second. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, you can see the ones that are specifically highlighted for 2379. So if you're wondering what is different, maybe because some of the stuff that I've talked about, was there previous, and so it's kind of a revisit of that, so you can see what it's about. But if it's specifically new for 2379, usually there's a flag in the upper right-hand corner of the slide that tells you that this is for 2379, like you can see on this slide. All right, so at this point, so we have a embedded video here, and I'm going to share this. This was done previous, and what this will let me do is kind of walk you through a little bit of how this edit wireless configuration demo goes forward. So let me share my screen. 1 second. It's actually on the wrong one. Let me take it out of this for a second. Bear with me for a second. We'll just make this small. Make this small. All right, so we'll go ahead and play this. Let me give you a little background here. You can see we're in the site tags here, and we're selecting a site tag, the one that's listed in the list there, and it's in local site mode. And so this lets you change it from local site mode to the default Flex profile. And we can save that and apply it. And so it's edited the site tag to take it from the local site to the Flex profile. We'll just kind of watch this as it's going through there. You can see the changes that it's planning on making, in the page below that, showing you the updates that it's going to make, and then you can hit deploy at that point. So we'll go back to the slides. All right, so license manager enhancements. Again, you see in the upper right-hand corner, this is a new thing with 2379. So we've made some changes to this. The license manager, specifically for the networking subscriptions, we've improved the out-of-compliance notifications across various UI interfaces, including inventory and WLC workflows. We provided greater visibility into your licensing status as well. A key feature of this is the direct cross-launch capability to the license manager to allow you easier registration. Most importantly, though, this release introduces support for Wi-Fi 7 access points under the Cisco networking subscription model, which requires the WLC running iOS XE 17.15. Just remember, after any change that you do, though, a reboot is required for this type of configuration. The UI that we provide for this workflow will tell you that there's a reboot that's necessary, and it will explicitly ask for your consent to a checkbox confirmation. So a couple other things to note: the Wi-Fi 7 APs are shipped with the worldwide safe mode by default, so just keep that in mind. So again, this is a new thing with 2379, as you see in the flag, with the flag in the upper right-hand corner. So this just walks you through some steps to change the license in 2379. This is the landing page of the license manager, and you'll see all your devices listed. This example in the screenshot just shows one device, but you can have all of your managed devices listed. From this view, you can actually select multiple devices and then head over the Actions menu to perform different tasks. So in the Actions menu, you'll also see an option called Change License. From there, you can choose Change Cisco License, And this used to be labeled change DNA license, but we changed it to change Cisco license because we moved the DNA license. We moved from DNA licenses on legacy devices to a new unified licensing model. All right. So make sure I'm in the right spot here. All right, so I think this is where I was. So steps to change. All right. So after you select this option, you'll see a pop-up screen with a few choices. You'll have the option to remove the license if that's what you need, or you can actually change the license, which is like switching from Advantage to Essential or Essential to Advantage. So as you can see here, we now have we have DNA and unified tabs in here. Initially, those weren't available, but we added them to help separate the different types of licenses and the devices that each one applies to. So here you have a checkbox that lets you choose to reboot the device during the update. You can check this box to trigger that. You can just check the box and it triggers that. And the name of this action is actually called License Update. Once you click Confirm, you'll see a success pop up like this, letting you know that the task has been triggered. So after you click Confirm, you'll see a success pop up. You can keep track of the task through your recent tasks, which is right above the device table on the same page. When you click on the recent tasks, you'll see an entry for the operation. All right, so on to another new feature, wireless automation, the support for the CNS license. So what we're showing here is, we want you to understand that we're making continued investments in wireless automation, specifically supporting the new CNS license within Catalyst Center Release 2379. This new license provides a streamlined and consistent licensing model across your Cisco networking infrastructure. And with it, we help you managing your licenses becomes more integrated, with the Catalyst Center interface that you're used to. Notice that the prompt for license, that there's a prompt there for license management, and this ensures that your access points are compliant. This will allow you to simplify operations and provide you with a unified view of your network's licensing status, which of course aligns with our broader wireless automation strategy. So all of these CNS licenses, specifically for Wi-Fi 7 APs, are managed through your Cisco Catalyst Center, providing you visibility into licensing status, compliance, and non-compliance reasons. All right, so let's move on to the AI Ops persona. All right, so the event analytics the event analytics dashboard is in place now to replace the chronological listing. And again, this is something that you've probably seen already. But it bears repeating just to make sure. So the event analytics dashboard in Catalyst Center, it'll feature heat maps that categorize and display the syslog messages. It'll do this by severity, and it'll also allow you to track wired and wireless network events, reachability transitions. So it'll help you understand as a network administrator all the data that's coming in about your network devices. Things like, when are the events happening the most? What are the highest priority events? Which event types are most common and which event types are least common? So third-party device support. Again, this is something that's been in there. I remember discussing this with 2377, but again, it bears repeating. So Catalyst Center Wired Assurance now supports third-party devices. You can monitor them and troubleshoot them directly from the overall network and Device 360 Assurance Health dashboards. By default, they're all categorized under the core device family, and issues related to devices can be viewed in the issue settings dashboard. So the introduction, again, now this is a new feature, and again, I'll point you to the tag in the upper right-hand corner. The introduction of Wi-Fi 7 support within the client health dashboard, release 2379. It is supported in release 2379. With Wi-Fi 7's multiple link operation, clients can connect simultaneously across different bands. This will allow you to monitor the connectivity metrics for these diverse links and provide you with a comprehensive view of your client health. You get the ability to track the key connectivity KPIs across those links, and you have support for 4 KPIs per link: RSSI, SNR, special stream, and channel. Now, I will say this functionality requires MLO-capable client devices operating on multiple links. All right, SecOps. So again, this is some items that we've discussed before, but we have a new UI for the SD Access user interface. So this will offer you a simplified and intuitive user experience. You now have a virtual network view that will show you your fabric dependencies, and will also now correlate the VNs with with components like the SGTs and the IP pools and the subnets. The interface also now features separate pages for configuring fabric sites, virtual networks, transits, and each of these has an overview and table view. Also, the fabric site overview page will provide you tips, insights, and will give you progress updates on your workflows. The goal here is to streamline your network deployment and management and give you a better experience as the end user. So LAN automation enhancements. So we've discussed this before, but this will allow you to initiate up to 5 LAN automation sessions concurrently, 1 per site. This will give you zero-touch onboarding of your PnP-ready switches at multiple locations, and will speed up your deployment of fully automated routed access underlay networks. You'll get a dedicated landing page that will simplify your workflow in all of this. Just remember that simultaneous sessions within the same site are not supported, and each of these sessions require distinct seed devices and LAN IP pools. So the SD Access compatibility check. So this is a feature in Catalyst Center that will ensure that the fabric devices that you have will run compatible versions for SD Access. So it'll actually automatically downloads the compatibility matrix. It also allows manual uploads for air-gapped environments. The feature supports various fabric roles and will check for new devices added to fabric sites, zones, or transits. And it will help you as a network administrator maintain SD Access compatibility by identifying and reporting devices running non-compliant images. The goal here is to be proactive and ensure that you have smooth operation and prevent any potential issues that could be caused if you're running incompatible software versions. So this is new with 2379, the in-service software upgrade, or ISSU for short. This has support within the fabric, starting with Catalyst Center 2379. It allows for software upgrades with minimal to no network downtime, which is crucial for your business continuity. You have different requirements for downtime, how long you can be down and whatnot, and this is an attempt to make this a little easier on you. The devices must be C9404R, C9407R, or C9410R models with dual supervisor and function in a pure fabric edge role. Additionally, all the devices involved must be running iOS XE version 17.15.1. So again, a new 2379 feature. We've introduced some API enhancements. We've added support for bulk and selective deletion of port channels, streamlining your network configuration management. You can now configure the authentication profiles at a global level for simplified policy enforcement. And you also, the API now supports Git and put for authentication profiles, specifically in relation to the access control list. This release also enables the application of configuration changes to the Fabric site after migrating an IPv4 pool to a dual stack IP pool, which we hope will ensure a smoother transition. So last but not least, we'll move into DevOps. So we've discussed this before, but this is just a short list of some of the new and enhanced APIs that were part of the 237.x release. So you can see you have new ones for Devices API, Sites API, Compliance, and LAN automation. But we've made some enhancements to some of the SDA Access API, as you see in this list here. So the new APIs are listed on the left-hand side there: Application API, Application Policy API. We've also deprecated some APIs that you can see on the right-hand side. We've updated some, and we've added some new events to the list of available enhancements for the API. So let's talk about the upgrade path. So at this point, 2379 is the recommended release. As you can see there on the chart, we recommend everybody moves to this. And so we recommend for this upgrade that you look at the upgrade guide to find out the best way to move from whatever release you're on to the 2379 release. And I think we're ready for a poll. You've heard me talk long enough. Let's see what kind of questions you have. So you can scan that QR code and put your answer in there, and we'll get that information back. All right, so I think we're ready to hand it off to my wonderful accomplice, Mr. McMurdo here, who's going to talk about some of the new features in Catalyst Center.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to start off showing the configuration visibility feature. So in order to generate something to show, I'm going to actually change a switch. So to do that, I'm going to come in here to Provision Inventory. I'm going to find switch edge 2. So let's just filter on switches. Edge 2. So I'll select that. View device details. And I'm going to come in here and do a configuration on this switch. So I've got this layer 2 configuration. I can come down here to port configuration. I can select a port and I can edit that port or aspects of that port. So what I'm going to do is simply add a description. So this is just the description on a port. I'm going to save that. And you can see now this one port has a switch port description on it. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and deploy this change to the switch. So what I'll do is go next. And what we notice now is that I can no longer deploy it now or later. Those are the features you would normally see. What we now have is this generate configuration preview. So this is on by default on 237. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to turn it off if you need to later on. But for now, what happens is this is on by default. So if I go next, it's going to do some validation checks. Those are good. And now it's going to generate the configuration that's going to change on that switch. And let me see the exact CLI that's going to change before I push it out to the switch. Okay, so you can see here, here's my switch port 103 description. Yes, very, very good there. And so that's the configuration to be deployed. Over here, we see what's currently running. So let's just take a peek at that switch port. Come down here. So here's port 103, no description on that, right? So what I can do now is hit the deploy. If I hit that, it'll give me the, do you want to do it now or schedule it for later? I'll show you a different way. So let's say I want to do it, I just got interrupted and need to abandon this now. I can hit exit and preview later. Okay. So what that's done is it's moved this change into activities, tasks. Okay, so sometime later, I come back from lunch, I go back in here to activities, tasks, and I see that this config change is still pending review. Okay, so I'm going to click on that now. And here it is again. So this time I'll hit deploy here. And now you see I have the option to do it now like normal or do it later. Okay, and there I can schedule it. So this is the normal sort of flow that you're used to. But what's changed is that you've been able to see that config, the exact CLI that's going to change before you make the change. So I'm going to cancel out of here, but I'll show you now. Discard. Yes, I want to discard it. Okay, so what I want to show you now is how you can control this behavior. So I'm going to come into System Settings, scroll down and look for System Configuration, and over here is Visibility and Control of Configurations. Okay, so if I select that, we can see that by default in 237, this is checked on. Now, there may be situations where if you've got to push a lot of changes out, you don't want to wait for it to generate the config preview every single time. So you might come in and turn that off, make a batch of changes, and then turn it back on, because it's really a best practice to have that on for the next person to use Catalyst Center. So that's one thing to know here. The other really interesting aspect of this is that if we had have enabled ITSM, like ServiceNow, if ITSM was enabled, we'd be able to check this box, which is ITSM Approver. And what that means is that before I can deploy the change, the exact CLI that's going to change is sent to ServiceNow or our ITSM. And there, once it's approved, I get notified back that it's approved. Only then can I apply that change. So that puts that ITSM change management automatically into the loop. And it makes it easy for the approver to see exactly what's changing, because he sees the CLI that's actually changing. Okay, so that's visibility and control of configuration. Next thing I want to look at very quickly, it's just really one checkbox, is QoS. So if I go now into policy, application QoS, I can see here, like, I have a policy, right? It's applied to all my devices. But as I add new devices to the network, this checkbox ensures that the same policy gets applied to the new devices automatically. So we don't forget to make that change. So this is relatively minor, but it's a nice little addition in 237. All right, so I'm going to move on to templates now. So let's come in here. Blanking, this is what happens. Tools. No, it's in, provision. I've done this. All right, excuse me for a second. Provision. Design, of course. Design. Whoops. So I come in here, design CLI templates. All right, so I've got a project set up for this. So let's select that profile, onboarding configuration. And we can see the templates that are already defined for this project. I'm going to create a new one. So I'll come over here to add new template. All right, let's give it a name. I've got very original naming conventions. We'll tell it what project we want this to be part of. So that was the onboarding configuration. It's a velocity template. The software we're applying to is a iOS XE, because it's going to be on a Cat 9800 switch. So now I'm going to look for my device family, wireless controller, and then scroll down here to the 9800 wireless controller. Okay, so now I think we're all set up, right? So we've told it what sort of template we want to apply. So now let's continue and define the template. All right, so let's go IP, HTTP. That should do it. And then password encryption AES. Okay, so that's a template. That's what we want to change as part of onboarding our wireless LAN controllers. That's a part that's new here, is that this is an onboarding template for a wireless LAN controller. We didn't used to have that capability prior to 237. So I'll commit that, put a comment if I want, but let's keep it simple. All right, so now we have to go and apply this to the profile that gets put to those 9800 controllers. I could go straight up here to attach to profile, but let's go through the menu, reinforce here. You go into design. Here's the CLI templates. Here's the network profiles. You'll notice these didn't used to be in the same part of the menu system. So we've moved the templates so that they're in the same sort of part of the menu system as profiles. So we'll select our profiles. Here's our wireless profile. Let's go ahead and edit that. We'll go to templates. So the templates tab over here. And we've got onboarding templates. We already have one. So you can never have to, well, let's add another one just for the sake of this. So here's the one that I added. All right, that was my very original name. So select that, add, and we are done here. Save this. So what that means is that next time you provision a wireless LAN, or you onboard a wireless LAN controller, in fact, this onboarding template will be applied to add that HTTP and password configuration, okay, that we defined. All right, so that's adding an onboarding template to a wireless LAN controller. Right, so the next thing I'm going to look at is the SDA GUI and the changes that have been made there to try and simplify that. So let's go to provision, fabric sites, and here you see the new sort of GUI. First thing to point out is that we've got along the top fabric sites, transits, virtual networks. So they're all got a very, very similar look and feel. So if you can see at the top, you get the summary. So you can see how many sort of elements that are belonging to this virtual network there are. So how many layer 2 virtual networks, how many layer 3, any cast gateways, etc. Down in here in the overview section, you have like this sort of small explanation of what you're going to do. So this is sort of a way for someone who's kind of new to this to walk through it. So let's say you wanted to create a layer 2 network, click that tab, and you get a sort of a short explanation of what that means, and then the ability to deploy it here. Let's click that. If we click that, you go straight into this workflow to create a layer 2 virtual network. And of course, it's a different workflow if you come here and do it there. There's so many ways to get to this workflow. If you really know what you're doing and you just like the old UI experience, you can just come in here and click, all right, we want to add a layer 2 virtual network. Let's click straight here. You get the view that you used to see, that you're familiar with, and then you can create a new layer 2 virtual network, and it launches the exact same workflow. So pretty similar, but I think this new sort of GUI approach sort of makes it easier for someone who's less familiar with SDA and needs, walking through step by step through the process of how to set this up. If we scroll down a little, we see a table of the components. So up here, we said we had 24 layer 2 virtual networks. If we come down here and click layer 2 virtual networks, we can see those 24 virtual networks and various details about each one in a tabular view. We can come in here. If we're provisioning something, we can see the status of that provisioning job here. And here's yet another way to launch that workflow to add or change these different SDA aspects. So I'll click on this one again, and we see the exact same workflow. So lots of ways to do this, but that's how you get a nice, easy to understand sequential way to work your way through configuring and deploying an SDA network. Right. So I only really focused here on virtual networks as, very similar sort of workflow for fabric sites and also for configuring transits, SDA transits. All right. So I'm going to go now and have a look at the SDA compatibility matrix. So for that, I'm going to go into System, Settings, and this time it is External Services is the heading we're looking for. And we should see here SD Access Compatibility Matrix. Click on that. And here we see this compatibility matrix is used for compliance checks within the various GUI screens. So if we have a switch that's not in the compatibility matrix, it'll fail those compliance checks, and we'll see evidence of that in the SDA GUI screens. Now, how do you get this compatibility matrix? It's set up here to download automatically. So every day it's set up to download. It was skipped because it was downloaded not so long ago, and it's still no changes have been made since then. So we don't download it unless we need to. If there's a link up here to the web version of it, and if you're an air-gapped customer, you can actually download it onto your laptop and then upload it into Catalyst Center. All right, and if you want to turn it, it's turned on by default. I don't really see any reason why you should want to turn it off. So let's just leave it at that. All right. So let's have a quick look at APIs. If I come in here to Platform, Developer Toolkit, this is where we get a lot of information about our APIs. Now, there's a lot of APIs here. So what I'm going to do is, we talked before about this, there were some site APIs that got upgraded. So let's just search on site. I type site. All right. So here are all the site, all the APIs that have site as part of their name. So you can see actually there's a lot of these SDA APIs. These are all beta, so they're fairly new. If we scroll down here to the sites heading, we can see get site count is a version 2. So what's up with that? Let's refine that filter and say count here as well. All right, so now we see, we've got a get site count version 2. So this is an updated version of the API. But say you were already using the old one. If we just changed it, then all your existing applications and scripts would break. So we kept the old API, the old get site API. We put this little tag saying sunset. So if you've got scripts that are currently using it, it's still there. Those scripts won't break. But if you're writing new scripts, new applications, then this is the API that you should actually use. Right? The other one, let's just look at LAN automation. All right, so we have here stop and update devices. So this is, this is when you're LAN automating a device. The very last thing you do once all the changes have been made, you've got to actually stop LAN automation and have the devices update. So here we have an API that accomplishes that. If we click in, and this is true for all of the APIs, you get details. And I'm not a programmer, so I'm just going to sort of show you the headings here, but you get the details about the parameters. You can see what is actually in the request body. You can see a sample request for this API, what responses to expect. Hopefully it's this one and not any of these errors. Policies, right? Yeah. And then a code preview. And you can change, right? There's a whole list of different code types. So if you're not using Python, you're using Ruby, you can change here and get the Ruby code that you can insert into your application to run this API. Now there's a link to the documentation. This is on DevNet. DevNet is a website sort of dedicated to getting engineers up to speed with this programmatic way of managing your network via Catalyst Center APIs. And I think that's about the end of my demo. So I'm going to hand it back to the moderators to sort of wrap this up.
Sorry about that. So let's talk about some key points from the discussion that we've had today. So just, I'll read some of these. We talked about the compliance check and how it can help you identify and remediate unauthorized configuration changes on your devices. We talked about template hub organization. You can manage all your templates from the template hub and automatically detect conflicts between them. We talked about your ability to handle multiple LAN automation, streamlining your network management with automated tasks for multiple LAN environments. And we also talked about some new changes to the APIs. So we encourage you to kind of take advantage of these new features that are part of 2379. And again, just to reiterate, 2379 is now the recommended release, whereas before it was 2377. So I believe that's all that we wanted to make sure that you kept in mind. Again, I know that's been a lot of information today. So with that, I will pass it back to Tanner, who will go through some Q&A.
Really appreciate it, Chris and Bruce. Thank you so much for the demo. We really appreciate any time we can bring a demo to our audience. We are to our Q&A portion of today's event, so going to get to some of your questions to ask Chris and Bruce. If we do not get to any of your questions, please come talk to us on the Cisco Learning Network. We do have a post-discussion thread that is available where you can come ask further questions, and we will get those answered as well. Let's get to this first question from Juan. Chris, I know you just mentioned that that 2379 is now the golden version. This question from Juan, can I go directly from 2375 to 2379?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the best places to look when you're going to do that is to look at the upgrade guide. There's actually a section in there that when you scroll through it, that will tell you exactly which versions are able to be upgraded to 2379. But just in case you are not aware, you can actually go directly to 2379 from 2370, 2373, 2374, 5, 6, and 7. So after you upgrade to 2379, though, it bears mentioning that you cannot switch back to an earlier release.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you. Here, let's get to another question here. Are there any upcoming updates that you can speak on that'll allow Catalyst Center to do real-time configuration change alerts?
think you're on mute, Bruce.
I'm sort of puzzled by what that means, I guess, because what I walked through was when we're making a configuration change, it passes that configuration off to your ITSM, such as ServiceNow, for approval if you've sort of configured and enabled this. So is that an answer to the question, or is there more to it that I'm not?
No, that was just the question kind of straight up, and that's totally fine. If they come back and kind of ask for a deeper explanation of it, then we can circle back for sure. But appreciate you commenting on it. Let's get to some further questions here. I'm sorry that we got quite a bit. Here's a question. I'm running WLC 8540. How is the functionality different than the 9800 as it releases to Catalyst Center 2379?
Yeah, I'm going to have to pass on that, I'm afraid.
We'll follow up. We'll follow up on that one.
All I know is that the CAT 9800 platform is the one that's getting all of the attention. I think, you really have to be looking at moving to that sooner or later. I'm not sure what the end of life is on the other platforms, but yeah, I think the 9800s we should be aiming to go.
Thanks so much, Bruce. Let's see. Which Catalyst Center model would you say is like the best for small networks customers? Do you still recommend the 2379?
Oh yeah, the version doesn't really matter. The platform, though, if we support VM, we support Amazon Web Services, and we also have small, medium, large hardware platforms.
Great, thank you. Let's see here. We got some repeat questions. There have been a few questions about where will this event be available for rewatch. It is available. It will be available for playback on YouTube as well as on our catalog on the Cisco Learning Network. I do want to leave a couple minutes as we're close to time here. And again, if you have any further questions, come talk to us on the Cisco Learning Network. We'll get your questions answered. Chris, I want to kick it back to you real quick just first. Is there anything else that you would like to talk to our audience about before we do wrap up here in a minute?
I would say, I've been a network administrator. I understand how challenging it is to manage your uptimes of your products. But with this 2379, with ISSU release, take advantage of that. Take advantage of, managing kind of that and, which of your appliances are going up and down at certain times. Because I know it can be a headache scheduling downtimes for these. And so take full advantage of that with this, with this new release, because it could really save you a lot of headaches.
Great. Thanks so much, Chris. And Bruce, I'll give you the stage once more as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch base with our attendees with?
Nope.
All good?
All good.
All right. Chris, Bruce, really appreciate it today. Thank you for bringing your knowledge to the Cisco Learning Network today, as well as our producer, James McDonough, and the whole team for chipping in today on the Cisco Learning Network virtual event on Catalyst Center. If you have any additional questions, we'll keep this Q&A open on Slido for a couple more minutes. We also ask that you take a couple moments answering questions on our post-event survey, as it helps us prepare for some future sessions. For even more details, demonstrations, and future webinars, please visit the Cisco Learning Network. That post-event discussion thread on the Cisco Learning Network is now live. Come talk to us, ask some further questions. We'll get those answered for you. Once again, we thank everybody for joining us today, and we will see you next time on the Cisco Learning Network.